Today we are with Terry Afram, one of ASAH's previous vice presidents. Thank you, Terry, for having us. It's always great to catch up with old members. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what exactly it is that you're doing in Ghana right now?
All right. First of all, thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Terry Afram. I'm the current managing director for Jumia Food Ghana. Jumia Food is an online food delivery service, and we're active in 12 African countries at the moment. Before heading Jumia Food, indeed, I was in investment banking, worked at Goldman Sachs for a while, and before that, studying at the university, the Erasmus University, where I also headed and managed ASAH for a while.
Okay.
So that's me in a nutshell.
Okay, that's you in a nutshell. And so what you just told us, you are now the managing director of Jumia Food. And for those of you who don't know, Jumia is a really large e-commerce platform. I think one of the biggest in Africa as of now.
Yes.
And it's a really large company. I guess you could kind of compare it to Amazon in the United States.
Yes.
Whereby it's composed of various different services, and you yourself are responsible for the food department.
Correct.
So what exactly is Jumia Food?
All right, so indeed, Jumia Food is part of the Jumia Group, which is a large e-commerce platform in Africa. Jumia Food itself is an online food delivery service. We're also considered an online food marketing platform.
Okay.
As we market the different restaurants, we have different restaurants on our platform, and we basically deliver food from these restaurants to customers.
Okay.
So we increase market for these restaurants, and we provide convenience for customers in getting them their meals delivered to their doorsteps.
Okay, so would it be right if I say that you can compare it to a takeaway.com or maybe like a thuisbezorgd.nl?
Excellent, correct,
So that's
indeed.
kind of the comparison.
Yes.
So, like you said, you studied at Erasmus University in Rotterdam. You are now here. What was that journey like? Because I can imagine that you just didn't graduate and become, manager of such a huge company.
Yeah.
Where did it start?
That's true. All right, so it started. It's a funny story. Well, not necessarily a funny story, but I mean, I first started in investment banking. So I studied finance. I did a master's in financial economics, and finance was everything. So I wanted to go into investment banking. Was pretty sales oriented, and obviously like finance. And I thought investment banking was the best combination of the two. So I went into investment banking, started at Goldman Sachs. Had a wonderful time at Goldman Sachs.
What did you do at Goldman exactly?
M&A, so
M&A.
mergers and acquisitions, and got sent to Johannesburg. So I did sub-Saharan African mergers and acquisitions, which I really loved. I really enjoyed that period. But then at some point I got an offer to come and join Jumia Food. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because obviously I was at Goldman, and that was everything I ever wanted.
I remember Terry was always telling me, "No, I want to go in M&A. I want to do that. That's my goal." And I always asked you, don't you want to go back? And you were like, "No, that's going to be in a later stage." But somehow, I guess they managed to tempt you.
Some way, somehow.
Yes.
Indeed. Yeah, it's you're really sharp indeed. We always used to have these conversations, and like I said, I was focused on M&A. M&A was the thing. M&A was something I wanted to kind of grow in, kind of on my position in the company. But then at some point, I thought, I'm pretty entrepreneurial myself. I'd like to say, and I enjoy, these aspects of entrepreneurship that I'm doing now, as in, closing deals and. In M&A, and I was an analyst. In the first stages, you're not necessarily doing that. So now in this particular position, it gives me the opportunity to just manage a full-fledged company, and I think these opportunities are scarce. So that gave me the trigger to actually,
So that gave you the push to go from M&A to now basically managing the food department of one of Africa's largest e-commerce companies.
Exactly.
So you moved, right? You
Yeah.
moved. When did you make the move?
I moved in March.
So March.
Yes, almost a year ago.
So it's almost been a year.
Yeah.
You come here, of course, Ghana is your home country. You already know the culture, you speak the language. What was for you the biggest difference in working here versus working in Holland?
I think the biggest well, there's a few differences, but I mean, that which makes most impact on you, I think, is kind of like the culture, as in like the corporate culture is a bit different. People, you know, conduct of people versus conduct of people. There's some differences, but then also like differences in terms of structures. Infrastructure, for example, here in Ghana is a bit different than you'd have in Europe. So there were a lot of differences, but I was cognizant that I would definitely get these that I would experience these differences again, because I'd already been in Ghana for a few months for an internship I did earlier. So it wasn't new or something for me. Yeah.
But it was still, of course, something that you had to get used to.
Of course,
yes.
Definitely. Yeah.
And you just, you mentioned it a little bit. You did an internship as well.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that was the right stepping stone for you to now be able to have, a managerial role?
Definitely. So I did an internship at Standard Bank Ghana. And I did it at the investment banking division, as I was interested in investment banking. But also outside of the bank. So obviously, within the bank, I did a lot of networking myself. Spoke to a lot of people. One particular guy that really helped me was the CEO of the bank, Alassane Andani.
Okay.
So through networking, somehow, I just went to his office. Was assertive and just went into his office, and he did appreciate that. So kind of built a bond, and I would just pop in and he would give me particular advice. And he once also told me that, right now you're in a position that you have one leg in Europe and one leg in Africa. You should leverage that. So that's always something that I kept in my mind. And, he gave me some other guidelines and really helped me to actually make the decision. He's like one of the reasons, I must say, that I'm here in Ghana. There's other mentors that I can also mention. Samuel Waterberg is one mentor that has been really significant in my choice to actually come to Ghana. When I came to Ghana back then, during my internship, spent a lot of time with him, and he made like a similar decision. So he used to be in banking as well. Did a really good job at Rabobank. Had a pretty senior role. Then at some point came to Ghana to head a diagnostic clinic in East Lagos. He's now doing his own thing. He's setting up a pension fund.
Yeah.
So
PT.
Exactly. So these were people that I had around me while I was in Ghana, and that has made a huge significant change in my decision to actually come.
Yeah. So it's basically kind of like a combination between the entrepreneurial challenge versus the more corporate standard ladder that you would go through if you stayed in Europe. In addition to that, also encouragement from your mentors, correct? And one of the things you also said is that you kind of have, one leg in Europe, one leg in Africa. How do you leverage that on a day-to-day basis?
No, very good. I think that's a very good question. Having an understanding of both cultures helps you take advantage of particular situations. Right now, the company I work for is headquartered in Paris. So particular structures are European, but then at the same time you're operating locally, you're operating in Ghana, so you should have a grasp of particular customs and culture in terms of people to be able to actually reach your consumers, for example. And there's things that we have in Europe that we don't have in Africa that prove an advantage, and also vice versa. So that's the way in which I leverage both my understanding of both areas,
and
both regions.
One of the things, of course, that you also had to do, but I guess that also through your experience with ASAH, you already got to practice a little bit, is of course managing a team.
Definitely.
Because you have a team of how many drivers in total?
So drivers are 52.
52.
And the in-house office is that's 17 people.
Okay. So in total, you're responsible for 69 people. Plus yourself, so let's say 70 people. How does somebody of your age go about managing that? I mean, like you said, of course you've had some little bit of experience in managing smaller groups, but I can imagine that this is quite a large task.
Yeah, no, indeed. When I first started, that's one of the things you'll be thinking of right now. Going to have to manage that big of a group. But obviously, again, you have mentors. You have mentors that help you here and there, tell you particular things. But then at the same time, you just do it. So you just dive in, and whether you're managing a team of 4, or a team of 40, or a team of 400, the principles are the same. So there's particular principles, management principles, that I've been able to apply. Obviously, you learn, you fall and you learn. I've made mistakes. Definitely, I've made mistakes during this period, through which I learn also. But at the same time, it's also, again, particular management principles that you would just apply to whatever you're doing, and it's applicable to 4 people, but also to 400.
To 400,
Yeah.
And like, you came to the company, right? There was, of course, certain structures in place as well. What do you think is the biggest change you've made?
The biggest change right now, I think, image and culture. So right now, Jumia food, as in like the food delivery service aspect, is something that a lot of expats have already been used to, as in their respective countries. So they used to be the most significant part of the customer base. But then at some point that got changed, as in we got a larger group of middle class local Ghanaians to join that group. And in order to grow sustainably, I knew that, I identified the fact that you then need that group of local Ghanaians, because we're in Ghana.
Yeah. Can't just survive of the expats.
Exactly. And typically, people thought that they would only be able to order, for example, pizzas, shawarma, the fast food kind of, the continental dishes.
The standard takeaway food.
Exactly. Rather than also, local indigenous meals. And what we did is change that whole image through a local food campaign, for which we also won a prize. We won the prize for best food company. Thank you very much. Which was about impactful marketing. So not just marketing to increase sales, but to actually change consumer behavior. So we wanted to make it as easy and as common for people to order, for example, banku, your favorite dish, I know, or bache, as they would a pizza.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think has been successful. Has even been recognized by the government.
Oh, that's great.
So that's a good thing.
And I think it's also a really beautiful example that returnees are not just coming here with a European mindset and think of, so we need to have all the continental food restaurants with the platform, but I think that it proves that returnees can also think from a local perspective, and maybe even, like you said, because you're in between the two, you could see that it is maybe too European to begin with. So I think that is a great example of how returnees can actually add value to companies as well.
Appreciate that.
And not only just look at things from a European perspective. So of course we've heard about your successes, right?
Yeah.
You won an award. You are now managing a team of 69 plus yourself, in total 70. You've made some great changes within the company, but of course there are also the downs.
Definitely.
What has been your biggest downfall so far? What went completely wrong, and what do you learn from that?
Mistakes. I think we make mistakes on a regular, even some bigger than others. But an actual significant mistake would maybe be waiting too long to make particular changes in a team. So like when I started, for example, we have a team of 17 in the office, and your team is as strong as the weakest link. But then I was thinking of so many other things and withholding the firing of that particular person, which then indeed for me ended up being a bad thing, because it slowed down a lot of processes. And I figured that at the point that we actually made some significant changes in the team, there was some relief or something. There was a relief, and you saw that those that were even under particularly people in a particular division, kind of developed much faster and did much more than they did before.
You know, you've been here for roughly, let's say, 10 months now, right? You've learned a lot. You've gone through your ups, you've gone through your downs. You've been involved, hands-on from the get-go. What are some of the things that you enjoy the most on a day-to-day basis whilst you're here?
As in work related or outside of
Both?
work? What I enjoy most, Ghana is a place that some days you think it's one of the worst places on earth, and on some days it's the best place on earth. You really wanna stay here forever. And for example, look at where we are, Villaggio. Look at the view. Look at the swimming pool, the wind, the weather, the people, the food. So I think it's like a holistic experience of just being here. I have moments that I just sit on the balcony with a bottle of water or with a malt or with an Alvaro, and feel as if I'm the king of the whole of Ghana. It's just really, even though Ghana can be really stressful, I think the relaxation and the enjoyment is also to a much more amplified extent than you'd have elsewhere, in my opinion.
Would you then also maybe say that in Ghana it's more about the day itself, enjoying the day itself to the fullest, versus maybe in Holland where we are always focused on what's next, what do I have to do tomorrow, or...
I would say to a certain extent there's there's people indeed that would have a more short-term view of life, and indeed more focus on today rather than tomorrow, which can be a good thing, which can be a bad thing as well. But I'd say that people in Ghana are, there's this spirit of positivity. You see someone not earning much, working in traffic, selling toilet roll, or selling oranges, and still be really happy and still enjoy little things, and still be able to smile, while someone would be in some office in Europe making maybe 5,000 euros after tax, and has a beautiful car and whatever, but still not necessarily happy. So I think that's one of the differences between both both parts. I think people appreciate things much more, appreciate life a bit more here. And obviously I'm generalizing right now, but I'd say that people are more grateful, of little things on this side than they are.
Is that also something you take home?
Definitely.
When you go back to Holland, you see your family, do you feel different?
Do I feel different from...
So when you go back to Holland, for example, I know you go back often to see your family. Do you feel like you have a different attitude when you come there versus when you used to live there?
Yeah, definitely. I actually just came back from a quick holiday in the Netherlands, and I'd say that right now, indeed, I'd say I appreciate the Netherlands more. Whenever you leave somewhere, that's where you actually start appreciating particular things or particular structures you would appreciate, but also particular even food items. But then at the same time, when I was there, I appreciated Ghana more. So there's particular things I missed here: the weather, also other food items, just the way of life. So I'd say it has kind of changed my perspective into appreciating wherever I am much more.
So Terry, we spent the whole day with you. We are now at the Accra Polo Club. A beautiful place, I must say. It's very serene, very calm. And during the day, you get to go from place A to B. You're all over town. But I can imagine that there are also downfalls. Moments where it might not go so well, or maybe personal struggles that you experience. Can you give us an example of something that you found very difficult?
Yes. I think in this particular business, it's food delivery, and for me, as an MD, my biggest joy is to have my customers satisfied. It's not enough. I always tell my MDs, it's not enough to satisfy the customer's needs, but to we always have to exceed their expectations. That's where we actually do a good job. Um, and then there's moments for me that well, let me put it differently. Like for us, the moments that are most stressful are when it rains. As the infrastructure at some places in Accra is not as developed.
Yeah.
So in those instances, you would actually have more people ordering due to the fact that obviously you don't want to go through the rain.
Yeah.
But then for us, it's even harder to actually find someone or to get through the bad roads to the customers. So there's a trade-off there. You're talking about risk of your riders. It's not always that safe for them to actually be on the road while it's raining. But at the same time, there's an increased demand for your particular service.
And you want to obviously make everybody happy.
Exactly.
Make sure they enjoy the service.
Exactly. So those are the moments that are most stressful for me. Yeah. And apart from that, obviously, there's we make small mistakes here and there. These mistakes have decreased, but in the beginning, there were like little mistakes around for example, meals or cutlery not necessarily being added. But we have like put in structures such that these things are limited and eliminated.
And of course, you're MD, so you have a management position. But from what I witnessed today, you also go to the restaurants.
Yeah.
You're very hands-on.
Yeah.
Have you actually delivered something?
I did once or twice even. I think so this was in my first week. Obviously before I started, I needed to be cognizant of each and everything that happened in the business. So I did placing orders. I did assigning orders to the different riders, and I actually sat on the bike.
Okay.
I didn't ride myself obviously, but I sat on the back and delivered a few meals.
Yeah.
So I know how it feels, and it's it's a hard job, but it can also be a really liberating job. Being on a bike, riding through Accra, having the wind through your not everyone has hair.
Through your scalp.
Exactly. It's a nice it's definitely a nice feeling. Yeah.
And personally, I mean, of course, like you said, with the business, it can be hard when it rains. It can be hard, of course, managing the drivers, because like you said before, you have 69 people that you are responsible for.
Yeah.
What has been most challenging for you personally?
As in job wise, is it like in the job?
Yeah. What was a moment where you look back and you say, wow, that was really difficult, or that was a real learning moment? Maybe?
On the job or just
On the
in
job.
general? On the job. Yeah. So as I said just now, that is always around the rains. So the rains are moments in which you have to make particular decisions. Do you close the back end? Because you know that by default you would get more orders when it rains. But then also when it rains, it's more difficult and it's more risky for the riders to actually be out there. And due to the bad roads or like the bad state of some roads, it sometimes makes it an impossible task almost. But then still you want to satisfy your customers' needs. Sometimes we have customers, loyal customers that have been with us from the onset, and you don't want to disappoint them. And there's companies, and you don't want to disappoint them. But at the same time, you're looking at the risk for your own employees. So those are I think the most challenging moments. And there's rainy season, so you'd have those things, and you'd have those events or situations on a regular, in particular months. But now it's a pretty dry month, so we're not experiencing many of these fortunately. Yeah.
And being so young, of course, you don't have maybe as much management experience as maybe other employees within the company, but also just generally speaking, because you're a graduate not too long ago. How do you deal with being so young yet having to manage maybe people that are older than you?
Yeah.
Do you find it difficult to get respect sometimes?
So that is a question I've heard quite often, but since the start I've never really made age an issue. I really think that as soon as you do your job well, age doesn't really even come to mind. So I always make sure that there's respect, obviously, but the employees respect me, and I think it's all about the way you conduct yourself, the way you behave towards the group, and as soon as that is okay, I think age should never ever be an issue. For me, obviously, like when you start, you're thinking of these things, but soon enough, I just made sure that wasn't something that kept me thinking, like that's something I wouldn't want to spend too much time. Like I'm younger than someone, right now I'm damn new, so it's my responsibility to make sure that everything goes as planned. And if I make a particular decision, then I am the one to account. Basically, I am the one to account for whatever happens with the business. So having that said, every single thing that happens within the business falls on you, and then age is never ever a component that should be discussed. It's all about performance and conduct. And if that's right, then again, age should never ever be mentioned.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, and I think that, like you said, of course, it's about the way you conduct yourself. But I can imagine that it can also be a bit different culturally, of course. In Ghanaian society, age is more regarded, I would say, than in the Netherlands. So was that also something you had to adjust to, or was it quite fluid transition?
I think it was, obviously you work on these things. You're from obviously born and raised in the Netherlands, but of Ghanaian descent, so you would have your Ghanaian cultural influences. So you know that these things are true, but I haven't been in a particular situation in which I had to deal with difficulties around my age, or around someone being older than me and me asking the person to do something. Because again, it's not position, it's performance. If I tell you to do something, you have to do it. And it's not up to you to ask me, like, what is your age before you actually
before you have to do it. Yeah.
So age is never discussed.
So Jumia. We've talked about this before. It's the largest e-commerce company in Africa, isn't it? You are now part of Jumia Food Partner. What is your future look like? Do you see yourself building this out and then moving on to other countries, or do you see yourself doing something different? What is it?
That's always a difficult question. Obviously, on the longer term, as in like the longer term, it would be wonderful to, obviously start business yourself and have your own things running. For now, I'm focused on Jumia. I'm enjoying here. I learn a lot. There's huge opportunities for growth. So I'm good at where I am right now. But I would say that I wouldn't aspire to actually build some ventures myself as in from the ground up. So in the future, you will definitely also see me in this particular region, and hopefully having built a few businesses myself.
Any ideas yet in terms of industry? Will it be in the food industry?
I think so. The food industry is an industry that I'm in right now. So, you would learn a lot right now, and these are things that I can actually implement in these like other things I would do. But then I'm also a huge advocate of agriculture. I think that agriculture in this particular region has been underappreciated, underused, underutilized, and there is huge opportunities right now. There's a significant growth of population, and everyone needs to eat. So in the end, you have to be able to feed these people without importing food. You know, we have soil that is really fruitful, and we should be able to do something with that. So that's something I'm looking at it. Just like show me as well. Just to name one, I'd say agriculture or agro-processing specifically would be something I'd be looking at, definitely.
And I think that there is also a lot of opportunities, like you said, and you see yourself, of course, with all the, the rise of all the new restaurants, the different continental restaurants, but also, like you said, through your campaign, the rise of local foods being delivered, and therefore, of course, there's an increase in demand. I definitely think that is a market that could be very interesting for other potential returnees to look into and to kind of explore, because like you said, especially when it comes to processing and making it ready for export, that is where it becomes interesting. That is definitely, I think, a very interesting point. And to finish it off, you've done it, right? You were studying in Holland, you did an internship at Stanbic, then you worked for Goldman in South Africa, you went back, finished your master's, got an offer to become managing director of Jumia Food in Ghana. What advice would you give other ASAH members, other people that are thinking about going back? How would you tell them to go about it?
I'd say first of all, make sure that you do your research. And make sure you speak to those that already did it. For me, as I mentioned before, I have like a few mentors that I speak to. One of those is Sam, a good friend of mine. Did the exact same thing. Worked in banking, then at some point came to Ghana, doing great stuff. I have uncles, Uncle ASAH, that has a huge venture. Has close to almost 1,000 people. So like around working with employees, and I can ask him questions, for example, and then there's so many other people that you can reach out to that are willing to share tips. It's all about being humble and making sure you are open to learn, and basically also just be assertive. Go to networking events, speak to people, never ever be shy. Even if you see someone in line at the supermarket and you've read about the person somewhere,
I know you would go.
I would definitely go. Every opportunity is one, and you never ever know where your golden moment or your golden connection would be. And we're all human beings. We all need oxygen. We're all red-blooded, I guess. So, even though you should respect each and every one, still be able to, I see sometimes that people are paralyzed when they see someone that is dubbed celebrity or influential, but these things give me energy rather. I'd rather go to a person that has actually made it, right? Has actually done something remarkable, because then I know that, okay, I can learn something from this person. So always have a learning mindset. Speak to people that have already done it. And if you feel that urge to actually do it, just do it. It was one of the most difficult decisions of my life actually to forgo a longer term position like in sex in this country, come to Ghana. But it has been really, it has paid off. It has paid off in terms of the experience and in terms of what I'm doing right now. So even though you have to think about it, don't think about it way too long. And if there's something, you know what its passion is. If it's a passion, you can answer that question with yes. Then I definitely say that you have to just pull the trigger and come over.
Yeah, well, I think it's very true what you're saying. Whenever you're passionate about something, you just have to go for it. And I think that also you've created the right environment for yourself in order to thrive. I mean, during uni, of course, you were involved with ASAH. You got a lot of connections through that as well, because that's how you met Samuel.
Exactly.
You went to Ghana to do your internship. You went to South Africa. You took the necessary steps, and I think that is one of the things people sometimes maybe not see. They see, oh, you got this position. Maybe you had a friend, or maybe you had something, but it's actually always a journey, and it's the appreciation of the journey that brings you somewhere. But it takes time.
Yeah, and indeed, like you're saying, ASAH has played a pivotal role in me being here right now. You know, if I wouldn't be in the board of ASAH, doing what I did, being able to organize an African Business Day, speak to so many people outside of university and in the corporate world, my network would have also been much smaller and might not necessarily be here. And it sounds really cliche, but cliches are cliches for a reason. Your network is your network.
It's true.
So just make sure that you have the right kind of people around you, and your opportunities will be endless.
Well, thank you very much. It's been very fun to just experience this day with you, to go about all the different restaurants, all the different venues that Jumia Food offers. I can definitely say that, I think Jumia is doing a wonderful job. Not only are you bringing convenience to Ghanaians in Accra, but you are also making sure that businesses can grow. And I think that is ultimately something that the continent needs more internal growth. So hope that you keep doing it.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me.
Yes.
and wanting to actually spend the day with me.
Of course.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm really humbled by this. So thank you. Appreciate it.